In this lesson, we'll be learning how to use the pen tool in Adobe Photoshop. I do have a graphic that I've opened here which I'll also be providing to you, and you can use that to actually redraw these logos in the bottom. And I've added a little text explanation on the basics on how the pen tool works up here. I'm just going to demonstrate right now, but if you read this, it kind of gives you the big picture story of how the pen tool works. The pen tool is a vector drawing tool, so it basically creates a thing called paths, and we can make straight lines and very organic shapes with it, and it's extremely accurate once you get a handle on using it. So let me start by just going down and selecting the pen tool here. And if I click and hold, actually I'll show you there are other tools here. There's the pen tool, the freeform pen tool, which I'm not going to demonstrate today, nor this one, but there's the add anchor point, delete anchor point, and convert point tool, which are the more traditional tools, which I will be going over today. But of course the main one is the pen tool right here. Okay. Now over here in my panels, ganged up with the layers, is the path palette. So I'm going to direct you to go to your path palette as the next step. Okay. Third thing I'm going to have you double check is up here in the properties panel for that tool, make sure it is set to path. It should be by default, I believe, but just double check that it's set to path. Once we've done that, all we need to do is initiate a new path. It's a best practice to start a new path because if I just start creating a path without establishing new path, it will draw, but if I don't actually save it, it will get written over. So to avoid that, best practice is to click this new path button right here, and it starts a new path. I can change that name later, but I've actually established an area that my path will be saved to now. So let me just demonstrate now that I've got my pen tool set to path. I'm on my path palette and I have initiated a new path. Okay, so the basics of the pen tool is it's kind of like it connects the dots, and each dot is known as a anchor point, and if we create curves, the associated element to that are known as handles. So let me start by just clicking here. Okay, I'm clicking, and that is an anchor point. If I click over here, that is an anchor point, and what it does is it draws a line in between each anchor point. So simply clicking draws straight lines. If I wish to constrain, I can hold my shift key down and it will hold the vertical and the horizontal as well as the 45-degree angle. Okay, so I'm just clicking away, and typically we want to do what's a closed path, so I'm going to go to that initial point that I created and move my cursor over it, looking for that little circle on the icon, and that tells me if I click it, I will indeed be doing what's closing the path. Okay, so that's creating straight lines. Let me just simply hit my delete key and demonstrate curved lines. Okay, it is saved in my path. You kind of see a small icon representing it there. Okay, but I am going to hit my delete key and demonstrate curved lines. Curved lines are click and drag, and that creates two different elements: the anchor point right here and these things called handles. Let me generate a couple of more of these and then talk about these handles a little further. Click and drag, and you see how it makes a curved line. So what these handles do is, based on the distance from the anchor point and the angle that it's facing, it will dictate the nature of the curve. Okay, so if I click and drag here, you can see here, and you'll have to get used to it, but of course I can twist it all around, right? But you see how the direction affects the direction of the curve, and basically the rule of thumb is the longer this line, the more severe that curve is, where the shorter the line between the handle and the anchor point creates virtually a straight line. Okay, so I'm just going to click and drag a few here and close this shape as well. Okay, and click and drag. Now you can click and drag on that initial point as well, right? And affect it like that. So there's a bit of an organic shape. Okay, so it's click and drag, and you can establish the handles by dragging, and the direction will establish the curve as well as the distance from the anchor point. Now, while I have this, why don't I show you the editing tool now, and then I'll go further on how to create straight lines combined with curves, and curved lines coming out of straight lines, and so on. So we have this vector selection tool down here. It's called the direct selection tool, ganged up with the path selection tool. The path selection tool is basically for selecting and moving it around. Now if I click away, I can deselect and then select it again and move it. So that's the dark selection tool. The direct selection tool is more powerful. It's for editing. So let me pick the white arrow here. I'm going to click away and then click back on the line, and you'll see all the anchor points are showing like hollow white. If I click on any particular anchor point, I can edit it. I can move it around, and I can grab its associated handles and move that curve. Now you will notice that it is related to the curve handle on the other side of the anchor point, which can become an issue. So that's where this other editing tool, which is nested with the pen tool, called the Convert Point tool, can actually come in and help you edit this. If I grab this now, it's separate. Okay? And it doesn't affect the tool or the handle on the other side. Okay? Also, the other thing that that Convert tool does is these are all considered curve points. If I click on this, it's going to turn it into what's called a corner. In other words, it's going to delete the two handles like that. Okay? Now if I do it over here again, this is a straight line because there's no handles in between connecting or controlling that line. Now if I want to do the opposite, I can go back. Actually, why don't I straighten this one out as well? Okay? So this is an absolute corner, what we call a corner point. There are no handles associated with that at all. However, while on this Convert Point tool, I can click a corner and actually pull handles out. Now if it's all twisty and bendy, just twirl it around. And that's how I can convert a corner to a curved anchor point and a curved anchor point to what's called a corner point. Okay, so that is your main editing tool right there. Between that, and I'm going to go back to the pen tool here, and the white arrow known as the direct selection tool, you have full editing capabilities here. Okay, I can actually drag over several anchor points as well, and edit those in tandem like that. Okay, or I can come over here and just again make my edits. Okay, so that in essence is how you edit. One, using the direct selection tool. The second one, potentially going back to your pen tool set and choosing Convert Point. I will show you some shortcuts for that as well. But let me just select this and actually delete it. So I'm going to go to the black path selection tool, select it, and delete. Okay, I'm going to start the process all over again. So let's say I'm about to start a brand new path. Go back to my pen tool, create new path. So I'm going to have two in here, even though this one's blank. Okay, just to demonstrate, every time you draw a path, you should initiate a new path with the new path button. Okay, so now I'm drawn into what's called path 2. Let's go to our pen tool, and I'm going to show you how you can combine. So I'm going to start with a straight line. I'll hold my shift key down. Straight line, straight line. Okay, here I can just actually click and drag to initiate and work that way. And if I was to click here, here's the thing. If I was to click here, it's still going to give me a curve because I've got that handle. So let me just undo that. Command Z on the Mac, Control Z on the PC, and show you how you can delete that second anchor, therefore creating a straight line next. Okay, it's basically holding down your Option key on the Mac or your Alt key on the PC, and it does a shortcut to that Convert tool. You can see the little Convert logo on the cursor. Click that, and that killed the second handle. Therefore, my next line will be straight. And the opposite of that is if you have a corner point with no handles yet, you can click and drag and initiate a unique handle on the one side. And then I can come back here. I can either click or click and drag. If I want to continue a curve, probably click and drag is a good idea. And let me show you just another editing shortcut. If I hold my Command key on the Mac or Control key on the PC, it temporarily turns into that direct select tool, which lets me edit while I'm in the process of still drawing. So that's probably how you would work when you've got a little experience, the shortcuts. The Control key on the PC, Command key on the Mac accesses the Direct Select tool, and the Option or Alt key accesses the Convert tool when you go over an anchor point or a handle. See, I can break that as well. And this means as well, here's the advantage here, I can kind of get like a bump that comes out this way again, like that. Okay, so I'm just going to come up here and close this shape. And the next part of the process, let's say, is if, excuse me, if I want to convert this into what's called a selection and then go over to my layers and say fill that area with a particular color, you can just click on this dotted line, or you can right click and go make selection. And it's going to create what's those little marching ants. Let me click OK here, and you see that now that's turned into a selection. My path is still there, it's still alive, but I'm going to go over to layers. And I'm going to make a new layer, and I'll just fill that with a color. So I'm going to pick a color here, say that, edit fill, fill with foreground color, normal mode, click OK. And when I'm done, Control D to deselect or Command D to deselect. Then on that layer I can do what I want with that established shape. And the nice thing is the line work for that shape is preserved in the Paths palette, and if I highlight it by clicking it, it's hard to see here. Let me turn this layer off for a second. And there you go. You will see an outline as soon as you highlight the path. Okay. Then I can do what I want with it. I can go back and edit it further. I could just move it. Or I could just save it and leave it alone and create another path. So I will draw one of these to demonstrate. Okay. And your exercise today will be to draw all of these as unique paths, and then go to your layers panel, make a new layer, and turn the path into a selection and fill it with a unique color. You can imitate the colors on screen, or you can pick your own colors. Okay, so let me go to this path first, and I am going to just click away from it, which hides it, and I'll initiate a new path. Okay, so I'm going to initiate a new path. So I am in my paths palette currently, and I'm going to click new path. It's called Path 3. I'm actually going to double click it and name it, and I'll call this one at the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is zoom up and get a closer look at it. I'm using my spacebar to move in here and center it on the screen. Okay, I am going to go over to my pen tool, ensure that I am on path, ensure that I have saved a new path, and I'm going to get going here. So I'll start down in this corner, and I know this is a perfect vertical line, so I'm going to hold my shift key, and then I'm going to click over here again with my shift key, and here I would actually initiate a curve by clicking and dragging out here. Now with these handles, the rule of thumb is, I'm going to zoom in closer here so you can see, the rule of thumb is drag that handle in the direction you want the curve to go into, but don't like drag it sort of on the inside of the curve. Keep it sort of on the outside of the projected curve area, and about a third of the distance. Like I'm going to click here for my next click. So, you know, generally by eye, about a third of the distance will get you close, and then you can refine it with another click and drag, and ultimately we can come back and edit it with the direct select tool, either while I'm drawing or come back later with the tool itself. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag downwards in the direction where the line is going to go next, and you can see that blue line showing me. Now if I just exaggerate this here, you can see how that's being affected, right? So I'm just going to come back here and use my eyes to tell me what to do it. This is close, so I could even go in here right now, hold my command key down, turn it into the direct select tool, because I can see this is where I need to make a tweak up here. And then here I can actually tweak this as well. Now you can go around and do your best first attempt, and then come back with the direct select tool as a second pass. That's totally viable as a method as well. But I did perfect it while I'm drawing here, so that's pretty darn close. So now the next line I want to be a straight line. And I have a handle here right now. So if I was to click, I would get a subtle curve. So I'm just going to, with my Option key in the Mac, Alt key in the PC, click this handle, and you see that upside down V, that's your convert tool, and it will convert the second part of this line to not have a a curved handle on it. So I'm going to click here. I will hold my shift key again because it's vertical. And same idea, click and drag a handle coming out of there. Then down here, click and drag in the direction that I wish to go next. Okay, so that's pretty close. And I would say if you get it that close, just keep going, especially with your first time using it, and then ultimately come back to the direct select tool and make your edits. Now I did something here. I stopped drawing, which is actually on purpose. I want to show you if you have an incomplete line, you can rejoin it afterwards. But let me fix this first. And I'm not going to move the anchor point because it is where I want it to be, but I will grab this handle and I can either just move it, like I can do this with it, and I can also shorten and lengthen it. Okay, so the combination of moving it around and changing its length will get you to where you need to go. Okay, and I'm going to say that's fine. So let's go back to the pen tool, and I want to rejoin the line. So it's just simply by clicking back on the next anchor point, and you see there is the handle. So I know my next work, but I want to eliminate that handle again, so I'm going to hit my Alt key on the PC, Option key on the Mac, and then come over here and draw with my Shift key down, make another click. Okay, so this one involves a lot of grabbing of the handle to generate a new handle, and then clicking and dragging the next line to get that curve, and that one's pretty darn close there. And then I'm going to eliminate this anchor point, or the handle on that second half of the anchor point, and just come up here with my Shift key. I'm using my space bar to drag around, and I'm going to drag a handle out of this second half here. I'm not going to do one at the halfway mark. I'm just going to try to get it on the other side of the curve. Because here's the thing with the curves, the fewer anchor points, the better the curve will be, because you have fewer potential bumps in your curve. Okay, again, I'm going to hold my Option key down here and come down to where the curve begins. And I might move that over later, but I'm just going to, for the rest of this, just do my best and not edit on the fly, and just quickly demonstrate coming back with that other tool. Okay, so I'm going to make this kind of imperfect on purpose. All right, I will eliminate, again, the second handle with my Option key here. It would be the Alt key on the PC. Shift click to make a straight line. This next bit's very easy because it's just straight lines. And again, I'm going to drag a handle out here, attempt to do the perfect curve, and I did nail it there. Yay. And again, Alt click that anchor point, coming up here, clicking and dragging there. You notice I didn't drag an anchor point there. It is optional, right? Once you get used to it, you'll just kind of get an instinct for it. Okay, and again, that's pretty close. So I'm just going to handle, come down here, Shift click as it's a totally vertical line. Here, let me just, without pulling a handle, see if I can achieve this with one click and drag. I probably can. I could ultimately, I'm going to leave it like that for now. Okay, it's not perfect. I'm going to leave it like that for now. And I'm just going to eliminate this second handle again, and I'll come back to it later. Okay, Shift click in here, horizontal line. I will drag a handle out here, a very short one, and then click and drag a very short line there. That seems to be the better way to make these curves, but it's not the only way. Okay, again, Shift click, drag a little handle out there, click and drag here. Again, it's not right on line, but as I said, I'm going to come back and edit this for a second pass. So I'm just going to eliminate that second curve there and come and close my shape. There we go. Okay, so I have a few little tweaks to make here. So I'm going to go to the white arrow, known as the direct select tool. I am going to zoom up. Okay, and I'm just going to use my spacebar to drag around. I can see here this line is a little bit running downhill. I'm going to click away once and then click on that particular anchor point and just move that up a bit. And you can see my handles here. If I want to edit, there we go. I'm going to zoom out one level. There we go. Again here, almost perfect, but let's make it perfect. I'm going to drag that down, just basically a pixel here. This one here might require a little more work, and I'm just going to play with that handle. And it still worked well even with one handle, okay? And let's see over here. I'm just dragging around, looking for imperfections. I'm just going to move that whole anchor point, and that means I now have to adjust this curved line a little bit. And I'm being very fussy at this point, okay? Here, definitely click that anchor point, and we're going to modify this handle. And it will probably require this handle to be modified as well, yes. And again, the direction and the length. And you're kind of dealing with two variable controllers here, right? But that's pretty good there, okay? I'm just going to shrink my view here. And I'm going to say that's good. So I will save my file. I had saved it initially. For this file, just convention will be last name, lesson number. I'm going to assume this is lesson number 6 or 7. All right, and save it as that. I'm just saving this with my previously saved name. I just called it Pen Tool Art. Now let's finish the thought here. I've got my line work done in here, and let's say I want to create a new layer and fill this with, say, lime green, just to contrast it. I'm going to start by converting this to a selection. There is the quick button down here, but the right click will also do make selection. So I'll use this quick button for this point. You see the activated selection called Marching Ants. Let's switch over to layers. Let's make a new layer. I'll call this layer CN. And I'm just going to go and establish a color here. One is going to pick lime green, so let's just go with something like that. Maybe a bit brighter and a bit lighter. Okay, and I'm just going to do an edit fill. I have my designated layer, edit fill. Foreground color, mode normal, 100% opacity, all good. There we go. And deselect, Control D. Now I am zoomed in at 400%, so if I go down to actual size, it looks really good. By doing a different color, though, you can see where it differentiates from its original. Now, this is highly acceptable. I will tell you it's highly acceptable. If I hide the background here, it looks great. The point is the curves are very, there are no dents in the points. There are no like bumps in it or anything, okay? So what I want you to do for your exercise is to go to your paths, make a new path for each of these logos. It's the yellow logo, the blue bell logo, the CN, and the maple leaf flag. Make a new path for each one. Then create a selection from that finished path. Go to your layers, make a new layer for each one, and fill it with a color of your choosing. If you want to use the same color, you can use the eyedropper tool. If I just go up here, I can sample these colors, of course, and just use those to fill. And that is your pen tool assignment for today. Let me just shrink the view of this again. I'm going to go Control or Command 0. And your basic rules are also included in the artwork. When you're done that, just hand in the PSD file to Canvas.